Hello, my name is Lisa Yates and I am working on behalf of Campus Stockton Teaching Alliance, leading the Sport England teacher training project for 9 secondary schools across Stockton-on-Tees, which is in the northeast of England. I'm going to share with you a little bit about our project and some of the principles that we feel have been successful in engaging our schools and some of the initiatives that they're taking on and delivering currently. So, we had a number of different project outcomes, mainly around increasing the amount of children enjoying PE in schools, but also increasing the physical activity levels of all of our students in schools. We quickly realised when we tried to engage the other 8 schools to be involved in this project that other schools aren't interested in my project outcomes. They've got so many things going on themselves that really I needed to position this differently and think about what the schools needed to achieve and how we could position our project against that. So we went to a secondary head teachers meeting and really presented the idea that everything we were going to talk about related to happy and healthy students becoming successful learners. And if children aren't in a good place mentally and physically, then it will impact on their learning. The head teachers didn't argue with that and then were willing to hear a bit more. So we asked them to consider whether any of these issues that I'm sharing with you now impacted on learning in their own schools. And quite quickly, they were able to identify 2 or 3 of those issues that children have in their own schools, and that was impacting on their learning and their achievement at school. At that point, we could then share with them some of the facts, figures, data, research, and the insight behind the fact that physical activity can be used as an intervention to address some of these issues. And actually, physical activity and the children being physically active is going to have a really good impact on that mental health and that physical health that we talked about earlier. Once I'd managed to engage the head teachers, then we asked them to sign up to be part of the project and nominate a senior leader and a PE teacher who would be involved in leading this project for their school. We wanted to make it very clear from the outset that this was a whole school project and that we needed a senior leader to be involved from every school. This wasn't something that they could just palm off to the PE department and maybe not think about again. So we really wanted this to impact right across the whole school. I can't say that we've totally nailed that, but we certainly have had buy-in in that sense. At that stage then, once we'd got those nominations, we asked the schools to get students to complete a survey. And then with those survey results, both those colleagues came to a launch event. So we had a full launch event for 9 schools, 2 teachers from each school. And we were able to present insight to them. We were able to talk to them about some of the research that's been done by Sport England about personality types. We started to get them to think about what issues their own children were having by looking at their survey results. And we got them to then identify their priorities for the project. At that point, the school signed an agreement with us. The TSA said what we would deliver, and the schools agreed and said what they would deliver as a minimum. And one of those things was they agreed to come to half-termly meetings. So once a half-term, each school would host one of those meetings. We would get those schools together, and we actually paid for that time using our project funding. So since then, I suppose the principles that we can reflect on that have been quite successful in the project is by using student voice and getting in data from individual schools. The senior leaders and the head teachers are far more interested. The survey that we used actually got information that we could track it to which particular child actually completed that survey. So we're able to find out which children were enjoying PE, why they enjoyed it, why they didn't enjoy it, how active they are. And then schools were able to use that information to correlate with other information. So we could look at groups of pupil premium children, children that have been identified with poor behaviour, children that have mental health issues, and start to look at how active those children are currently and whether or not we could be using an increase in physical activity to be one of those interventions. We've also delivered whole school CPD, and that has been quite successful. A twilight for every teacher to attend, where we looked at the principles of being physically active and how important it is to children's learning. And we asked at the end of that session for teachers to make a pledge at how they might contribute to increasing physical activity levels of their students. That might be something as small as, yes, I'll put up a poster in my room to say, Mrs. Jones went skiing at half term, or Mr. Smith goes walking on a weekend, right up to other teachers pledging to run a half term of an extracurricular club, heads of year offering to do an assembly in school. So various different things that the teachers have pledged to do, some of them also pledging that they would increase activity levels in their teaching so that they had more active learning going on. The idea of giving teachers time and support, so I mentioned that they came out once a half term. Those meetings have been invaluable. It's allowed us to sort of keep the ball rolling, good check-in time. It gives me a chance to input with new ideas. We've had guest speakers come in. We've had opportunities for additional funding where people have been sharing that information at those meetings, but mainly them supporting each other and sharing ideas. When I'm talking about multi-component solutions, maybe I'll give you an example in terms of one school identified that their Key Stage 4 girls were not active at all and didn't appear to enjoy PE. So we've used the Girls Active project in there. They've used, tried to encourage more teachers to be role models, so female role models in the school. They've looked at engaging leaders to increase activity levels, and they've changed some of the activities on the curriculum. So all different ways trying to get the same outcome, and that has had quite a significant impact in those schools. And where I've said sharing impact, it's that idea of schools talking to each other, telling each other what's worked. It's all very well me suggesting a particular project, but when they hear it from each other and hear how it's worked in a school, sharing impact has really spurred it on to be tried in a different school. So they're the key principles. In terms of what's actually happening, we've had lots happening in PE with new activities. CPD that the teachers have accessed has been great. They've looked at pedagogy, they've looked at activity, the curriculum design, and made various changes in that sense. But with the whole school, we've had some really simple ideas. Increasing activity opportunities at lunchtime and break time. So some schools have just put more equipment out or opened different spaces for the children to be active. Another school has actually introduced what they call the Secret Club, which is for Year 7 girls, because they identified that the Year 7s were coming from Year 6. They actually still wanted to play at break time. They didn't want to just stand in the corner looking cool with their friends, but they didn't want to do that in public. So they opened the gym at break times, and also lunchtimes. I think the girls can come in, just slip a pair of trainers on and play. Skipping ropes, balls, anything, dancing in the corner. And it gives them somewhere private to go and be active, and they've really engaged in that. With active transport, some schools identified that children didn't want to ride their bikes to school because their bikes were very expensive and they felt they weren't safe. So simply by introducing new bike storage, the children are more likely and have actually started to use their bikes for school because they feel the bikes will be safe. We've got a whole range of new clubs and activities being offered. One school has changed when they put their team training on. So they used to have school sports teams training at lunchtimes. They've changed that now and put that on in the mornings. And that has then released that lunchtime space and time for recreational activity. And they say the quality of what goes on before school is really improved, and the amount of children taking part at lunchtimes has really increased. They've got outdoor table tennis. They've just opened the mugger for some football, but various different activities. The last one on there, walk and talk registrations. It's worked for Year 7s because schools say that the Year 6s were in that routine anyway, and it's just been at registration time, 15 minutes, a different tutor group having a space once a week to be able to talk about a particular topic, but walk instead of sitting in their classrooms. Active learning has started to pick up just that concept of sit less and move more, and actually the children are reporting that they are enjoying some of those lessons a bit more because they are active and not just sitting and listening. We've had healthy selfie competitions and fundraisers that have been around skipping and running. Race for Life, that type of concept. A number of heads of year have worked with their student leaders to deliver assemblies and talking about the importance of physical activity. I think it's been really useful to have children involved in that, so the sports leaders in some areas where they are trying to influence their peers. And the last one there has been a really key project for us. We piloted it with some weightlifting coaches. One school had identified a group of Year 8 boys who had low self-esteem, poor body image, no confidence. And we brought the weightlifters in who are also trained, the coaches are trained with mental health coaching. And so the boys do weightlifting and then they also build in time for them to be able to talk and share and discuss their feelings and try to address some of those problems. And it was proven to be a real success. Obviously, it's been with closure of schools, that's been a bit of an issue, but we're hoping that that will pick up again when the children go back to school. And that school have said that once our funding has finished paying for that particular project, they will continue it with their pupil premium money. So that was quite a really novel idea. So a whole range of different ideas. And in terms of next steps, we're hoping that this will continue, the schools will share those ideas, and we'll start to look at the impact of that by doing some surveys and some case studies and some student voice, so that we'll actually have some robust evidence to say which of these initiatives are working, and we can start to embed those in school rather than just being a bit of a novelty. Thanks very much for listening, and I hope you have found it useful. Thank you.